Yo, it's your boy, Chris, back at it again. I got a Zoom class in 5 minutes and there's a lamp in my face. But I'm here to do an intro and say, hey, welcome to Youth Group Online. It's going to be pretty cool. And we're going to have an after party in Zoom afterwards. So you better make sure to come to that. We're going to enjoy it. It's going to be great. Well, what are you doing? Enjoy the video. Enjoy.
All right, everybody, it is that time. That's right, everyone's favorite segment, the one that is sweeping the nation. Dare I say it is an internet craze. I think we're about 2 weeks away from having a TikTok dance named after us. That's right, it's time for What's in the Bible, where we take this book that we love, the Bible, which is God's Word, which has a lot of really amazing things about who God is and who we are and about life and about all this stuff, but also has some weird stuff in it. And we say that's okay because it is. So let's take a look. This week we are looking at Judges chapter 4, verses 17 through 22. Hear now the word of the Lord. Now Sisera had fled away on foot to the tent of Jael, wife of Heber the Kenite, for there was peace between King Jabin of Hazor and the clan of Heber the Kenite. Jael came out to meet Sisera and said to him, "Turn aside, my lord, turn aside to me, have no fear." So he turned aside to her into the tent, and she covered him with a rug. Then he said to her, "Please, give me a little water to drink, for I am thirsty." So she opened up a skin of milk and gave him a drink and covered him. He said to her, "Stand at the entrance of the tent, and if anybody asks you, 'Is anyone here?' say no." Spoiler, she doesn't do that. But Jael, wife of Heber, took a tent peg and took a hammer in her hand and went softly to him and drove the peg into his temple until it went down into the ground. He was lying fast asleep from weariness, and he died. And that's not all. Then as Barak came in pursuit of Sisera, Jael went out to meet him and said to him, "Come, and I will show you the man whom you are seeking." So he went into her tent, and there was Sisera lying dead with the tent peg in his temple. This is the word of the Lord, 'cause that's in the Bible.
All right, we're here with Cece. Hey, Cece, you remember how you were in the video last week?
Yeah.
You were such a big hit. By the way, if you're wondering what that noise is, that would be Sam playing the recorder. It's loud.
My big kid whistle.
It's her big kid whistle, that's right. The first announcement, do you want to tell them that they can come to Coffee with Carter on Friday? Go ahead and say that.
You can go to Coffee with Carter
On Friday at 3:30. Sam
3:30.
is so loud. Also, this Sunday, did you know that this Sunday is Pastor Tom's last Sunday at our church
Yeah.
before Pastor Jessica comes?
Yeah.
So this Sunday, instead of Bible studies, we are doing a drive-through goodbye to Pastor Tom and his wife, the Reverend Dr. Honoree Griesel, at the church. So you come to the church after the morning service on YouTube between 11:30 and 12:30 this Sunday, and you can drive through the parking lot and wave and say goodbye. Extra points if you have like signs and decorations. You can drop off a card if you want. One other important thing about the drive-through parade, we need help. We specifically need people to run traffic flow and traffic control. So if you want to come help with that, let me know. Do you want to come to that goodbye parade with me?
Yeah.
Sweet. And the last thing I want to tell you is that Holy Week is coming up. It's the week before Easter. So week after next Sunday. And the church has all the Holy Week services that we usually have. Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, and so forth. And there's going to be more information for that coming soon. I really think you guys should be part of it because I think it would be really, really cool. Do you have anything you want to say to our friends?
Yeah. Only one thing to say. Don't forget to like and subscribe and come back and go to the Zoom.
I didn't even tell her to say that. That's so awesome.
Like sand through the hourglass, so are the Sundays of our lives.
Previously on Sundays of Our Lives.
The baptistry? It's ice cold.
He wasn't giving 10%?
You'll never believe what the youth intern discovered.
Joke's on him. He wasn't a real pastor.
Shorts? On a Sunday?
There's a Baptist at the door and he won't stop shouting.
The youth pastor put a raccoon in the copier.
Well, those weren't my green beans.
Someone put a bloody glove in the offering plate.
Well, bless my heart.
The youth pastor's wearing V-necks again, and they're way too tight.
No, George. How can I pray for you?
Someone put seasoning on the communion bread.
Paul Washer just rang in and he is ticked off.
Oh well. The youths tore a hole in the carpet. The youths got into the snacks again. The youths put a hole in the door. The youths are up to something.
I wasn't asking. I was telling.
The greeters' hands are sweaty. Looks like we're gonna need a new volunteer.
I really can't say who the father is. Let's just say you should be praying for Nathaniel.
Oh, I have news. And it's about the mission trip.
Oh, she wasn't speaking in tongues, darling.
What do you mean the volunteer didn't show?
Let's just say I won't be there for that sermon.
And she was sitting in my pew.
Rumor has it, Daniel's guitar wasn't tuned.
You'll never believe what I heard in the prayer closet.
Someone just defaced the church sign. And I think I know who.
The coffee is burnt. And I'm upset.
Little Birdie told me that Ben and Sarah were caught having premarital eye contact.
Why wasn't I told?
I'm gonna say it. Fireproof was a terrible movie.
Fireproof saved my marriage.
That's not what I heard.
I said I'll pray about it.
Someone put laxative in the communion. And I'm gonna find out who.
He was a dropout in seminary. And not the good kind.
I'm gonna put a stop to that fundraiser if it's the last thing I do.
I heard there was a couple kissing at the lock-in.
The mission trip to Bangladesh was canceled. Guess we're going to Tokyo.
Pastor went over by 20 minutes. That'll be the last time.
Presbyterian, huh? Who says I don't eat fish?
That's not possible.
I'm gonna make that youth pastor wish he was never born.
Joke's on you, I already do. How could you?
Don't be surprised if someone else is running the slides next week. You think that's surprising? Wait till you see the bulletin.
About 10 years ago, I was set to enter what I thought was going to be the prime of my life. I was engaged to this amazing woman I had met when I was in college, and spoiler, we got married, we have 3 kids, we're still married. I was working at a totally awesome job where, as a drummer, I got to work in the largest collection of cymbals in the world. I was also playing in bands around town. I was a part of a great church that I loved being a part of. And above all, I really felt like my spiritual life was more on fire than it had ever been. But then, out of nowhere, my parents got divorced. After 30 years of being married, just gone. And as an only child with no other family that I'm really close to, I can say it was the single most destabilizing thing I've ever experienced. And honestly, for a long time, I could not see God at work in it whatsoever. And even though God never actually left me, I still felt really disconnected from God. And as a result, I felt into this deep, years-long depression that, frankly, I'm still working my way out of more than 10 years later. And a lot of the time, through it all, I wasn't exactly the best Christian. Now, I wasn't out there doing the sex, drugs, and rock and roll thing. That's not really my vibe. I don't know if you can tell that by the everything about me, but I let my spiritual walk with God grind to a halt. And as a result, even my friends started noticing that I was just not that much fun to be around. I was less patient with them. My coworkers said the same thing. This amazing woman that had agreed to marry me, I was less patient with her too. In fact, one day she told me, "You've lost your joy through all of this." So I don't know if you have a story exactly like mine, but I'm guessing that you can relate a little bit. Maybe something happened to create distance between you and somebody that you love. Maybe you feel distant from God, either because of your choices or because you've never really been that close to God before, so you don't even really know what it's like. Maybe you made a mistake that ruined everything in a relationship and you just wish that things could go back to the way that they used to be. Well, throughout this series we've been in this month called Lost and Found, we are looking at one chapter of the Bible, just one chapter, that recounts this series of stories that Jesus once told about things that were lost and then found. And each story communicates a different but important truth. Now, it's important to remember these stories aren't historical. They're parables. They're stories that Jesus made up and told in order to teach an important truth. And Jesus told these stories to the Pharisees. They were the religious leaders of the day who had become these arrogant, self-righteous, and dismissive people. And they were dismissive of people who they believed were sinful. Jesus told these series of stories to help the Pharisees see how wrong they were about themselves, about others, and about God. So first, Jesus told the story about a lost sheep to show the Pharisees that God is not angry or judgmental when we wander away, and instead God finds us and carries us back to safety. Next, like we looked last week, Jesus tells a story about a woman who had lost a coin, and he did this to show the Pharisees that God doesn't give up on us when we wander away, but instead God goes looking for us because he values us. Now, let's see what Jesus is trying to communicate with this third and final story, and I want you to keep the name of this story in mind because it's going to be important later. You may have heard this story called the Parable of the Prodigal Son, or the Parable of the Lost Son. I want you to hang on to that title. But as we start to read this today, pay attention to how many sons there actually are in this story.
Get it? And so he tells them a famous parable that goes like this.
There was a father who had 2 sons.
The older son is trustworthy and honors his father.
And the younger son, he's a mess. He rebels and cashes in his inheritance to travel far away and blow it all on partying and being stupid.
And then there's a famine in the land, and he runs out of money. So he has to scrape by taking care of somebody's pigs. And he's so hungry he wants to eat the pig slop, at which point it occurs to him, if I'm gonna be a farmhand, I might as well go home and work for my dad. At least I won't be eating pig food.
So I think we can all probably find some things that we have in common with this younger son. For starters, he's impulsive. He made a really big decision, apparently without getting any guidance or wisdom from others. He is hurtful. Now, he may not have meant it this way, but his actions and his words hurt his dad. Because by asking for his inheritance early, he's basically saying, Dad, you are worth more to me dead than alive. Give me that money right now so that I don't have to depend on you or have a relationship with you anymore. And he's selfish. By not stopping to reflect on how his actions might be hurtful to his family, the son was acting selfishly. He cared only about his money, his big adventure, and not even the people who loved him. And even though the son had food, safety, and money at home, he kept dreaming of this distant land where he could go, and he imagined that he could do whatever he wanted, spend his money, have fun, find everything that he thought he was missing back home. And for a while, he got all that. Until one day, he suddenly didn't, because the famine came. There was no food. Everyone lost their jobs. He had no way to make money. Therefore, he struggled to find food, and he worked for a pig farmer, finally found a little job, and he ended up eating what the pigs were eating. Because of his own bad decisions, he found himself disconnected from others and from God. So desperate, he decides to go home, not as a son, but hoping to become a servant in his father's house. Let's see what happens next.
Pig food. So he treks back home, rehearsing his apology.
Now, the father is certain that his son did not survive the famine. But then, one day, he sees someone walking down the road. It's his son. He's not dead. And so the father runs to him and embraces his son, kissing him all over.
The son starts his speech. Dad, I don't deserve to be your son. Maybe I could come and work for you.
But before he can finish, the father calls his servants to go get the nicest robe, new sandals, a fancy ring for his son. They are to prepare the best food for a banquet. It is time to celebrate.
Can you imagine being welcomed home like that? I mean, after wasting this money, disgracing his father, and bringing shame on himself and his entire family, his father is still filled with love and compassion for him. The father runs to hug his son and runs to kiss him. And like the father in Jesus' parable, God is so loving, so kind, so patient with us. He's not an angry old man waiting to throw lightning bolts at us whenever we mess up and wander away. That's just not God. God is like a loving father, always ready to welcome us home. So when you've made decisions or mistakes that have led you far from God, I hope that you'll remember what the son in this story discovered about his father. When you feel lost, Jesus welcomes you back. Now, maybe you can relate to the son in this story. I know that I can, because even though I battled through depression 10 years ago and still struggle with it now, and even though sometimes it makes me wonder like what God is even doing in all this, and honestly, it makes me sometimes just say, enough, I don't want to deal with you anymore, God. Every time I turn back, every single time, God is waiting there, like the father in the story, just running to take me in with open arms. So what about you? Have you ever felt disconnected from God? Maybe because of your choices or your mistakes? Do you feel that way right now? Or maybe you've never felt connected with God in the first place. Maybe you're not sure how to connect or reconnect with God. Or you're not even sure if you want to. Wherever you are right now, that's okay. You're welcome in this place. But if you can relate, I hope you remember the story of this younger son. Just like his loving father, God always welcomes you back. He always welcomes you home, whether it's the first time or the 100th time. Now, I wonder if one of the reasons that it's hard for us to believe that Jesus always welcomes us back is because Jesus followers are not always very welcoming when someone has made mistakes or wandered from God. Just like Jesus was angry with the Pharisees for being judgmental towards others, I wonder if there are steps that we need to take to make it easier for people to come back to God after they've wandered away. Just like the son in this story, we've all hurt and wandered far from God. Even you. Yep. But no matter how far we've wandered, God still welcomes us back. Now, that's just the first half of this incredible parable. But remember that first sentence? There was a man who had 2 sons. We've just heard all about the younger son, but it's actually the older son where I think this story really hits home for us. So come back next week as we finish out this series by looking at both of these sons, one who broke all the rules and one who kept all of them. Yet somehow both of them are lost. And we look at the father who loved them both beyond anything they could possibly imagine. I want to invite you back next week to check that out.
Jesus Now Jesus lives in me. For I was dead in sin, but I woke up to see the light.
I don't know. Carter said something about the prodigal son being lost and found. Whatever. All I know is that I lost my oatmeal cream pies, and I found my oatmeal cream pies, and now I'm happy for the first time.